Hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to discuss about, inheritance in Python, that too in OOPS. Inheritance is pretty much similar to your, biological inheritance, wherein you can inherit features from your parents. The way we are biologically inheriting all the properties, features from our parents, usually he doesn't, right? Like, you look like your mom, your eyes are like your dad, right? You speak like your mom, something like that. Because we are inheriting properties of our parents. So similar concept is going to work even in our hoops. Okay. Inheritance allows one class to acquire the properties and methods of another class. It's like here you have a concept of child and parent, wherein child has a capacity to inherit all the properties and methods related to our parent class. So this promotes reusability and helps build hierarchical relationship. Let's say, for example, there are like multiple options which uses the same concept. In that case, instead of repeating the code, we can just make use of the same code. Instead of repeating, what we can do, we can just use this inheritance concept and we can inherit all the properties methods defined in a parent class by the child class and we can reduce the complexity. Okay. In inheritance, the very first type of inheritance that we're going to study is single inheritance. So, single inheritance in the sense a single child class inherits from one parent class. So, single inheritance is a when child class inherit properties or behaviors from only one parent class. We call it like a single inheritance. Single parent, single child concept here. Okay. So, let's say a company wants to calculate salaries for its employees. It clearly says that you have to create a base. There is a class employee. Okay. I'll just create a class which is an employee with an attribute base salary. So I'm just going to define double underscore in it, double underscore. I'm going to call a self and we'll call the actual salary of an employee's full-time employees kind of thing. And then I just want to call base salary. Sorry, it should be self dot base salary is equal to base salary, right? Then it is create a child class part-time employee that inherit employee. So I'm going to create one more class which is a part-time employee. Okay, so part-time employee who is inheriting all the properties of a full-time employee. So that means it says part-time employee will earn 60% of a base salary. So I'm defining method. I just want to know salary of a part-time. So I'm just calling uh, okay, part-time salary something. Okay. So part-time salary is going to be it's a 60% of your actual salary, so it has to return. So we have to call self dot base salary times 60%. 60% in the sense 0.6. Okay. And finally, I'm going to create an object. Okay, I'm going to create an object which is going to be so we'll create an object. Obj is equal to my object is created using a class which is an employee. Usually we create an object using class, right? Employee and it is expecting a salary. So it says that actual salary is 20,000. Okay, so now, so let me run this. And then what I'll do, I'll just call it object dot the base salary first, let's see. Okay, base salary is a 20,000. Next important thing, I'll just call object dot part-time salary. I have to say it right. Part-time salary is going to be so 60% of 20,000. So it seems like part-time salary has no attribute. Okay, anyways, it's an okay, one important thing. Since it's a single inheritance, since child is inheriting all the properties of a parent, you have to create object not in the name of a parent, you have to create object in the name of a child. Because child is inheriting the properties of a parent, right? Parent doesn't have child access, but child has access to all the properties related to a parent. So that's the reason it didn't work. See? So actual salary was 20,000. 60% of salary was part-time employee salary, which is like 12,000. So this is how single inheritance is going to work. So you can clearly see this is a parent clause and this is going to be like a child class. Single child inheriting properties of a single parent. Great. So the next important inheritance is a multiple inheritance. So when I say multiple inheritance, a child class will inherit from more than one parent. So here both mother and father will be there. It's like child is combining attributes and methods from multiple parents. Okay, I have a question here. You have to write a program in order to inherit multiple inheritance concept. So it says you have to create an employee class. So parent class, I'll just call it like an employee. Okay, and then employee class will store name and a salary. Okay, let's define an attribute, double underscore in it, self, comma, I'll just call name as well as a salary. So I'll just call self dot name equals name, and then self dot salary equals salary. Okay, then it says that bonus provider class provides a bonus 5,000 and manager class inherits from both and calculates a total salary. And you have to create an object for a manager with a base salary of a 30,000 and you have to display the final result. So basically what we have done here, so we have defined employee class and defined name and a salary, right? So first we'll define a method in our employee class saying like, get a salary. Like before bonus, like what was the salary? First parent is like employee, parent two is going to be like a bonus provider and child is going to be the manager. Okay, yeah. So what I'll do here is I'll define a method define. So I'll just say get salary, I'll just call a self. So written, I'll just use format. So I would say salary before bonus. Salary before bonus is going to be what? I'll just call self dot salary. Okay. So you have to define one more class which is going to be bonus class. So here employee is like a parent one, bonus is like a parent two. Okay, and bonus cannot inherit all the properties of an employee. Bonus and employee, they're not related. It is decided by the manager, right? Bonus is different thing now. So what I'll do here, I'll define a method like a bonus. Self, I'll just see return bonus is going to be just like 5,000. Okay, done. So now what I'll do, so I'll just make use of a manager class. So we'll define a manager class. Now manager has a option to inherit employee details as well as bonus details, right? He'll get that bonus, like how much bonus from a CEO. So I'm just inheriting the properties of employee as well as a bonus. Once you get an access, what you have to do? So now you have to calculate a final salary, right? You have to take the actual salary and you have to implement the bonus, which was basically 5,000. And finally, you have to calculate the total salary. So basically, how do you calculate a total salary? Simple. So you have to define a method. So final salary, right? Let's just call it like define. Okay. So final salary, I'm just calling self, and then I'm just asking it to written. I'll just use a F for formatting, the salary after bonus. The salary after bonus, okay, is going to be. So I'm trying to call self dot salary actual salary. Okay, self dot salary plus I'm also calling self dot bonus. I'm calling bonus method. Okay, done, great. So finally, I'm going to create an object in the name of manager. So because manager has an access to both employee as well as a bonus. So I need to pass actual salary. So let's say, for example, actual salary is 50,000. And if I try to run this, okay, it is giving error, like why? Because I'm trying to call a function, right? I'm trying to call self dot. Okay, not just because of that. Actually, it's giving an error just because of this. It is expecting one more parameter, right? One positional argument is missing. So we are expecting two things, name and a salary. Let's say name is John. Okay, let me just pass both the parameters. One is a name, John, which is, and salary is going to be 50,000. Great. Okay, now I just want to see the final salary. So what I'll do, I'll just call object dot final salary should be what? So 50,000 plus 5,000, it should be 55,000, right? So what you can do, you can just remove this bracket and you can include only one bracket. Then you'll get a perfect 55,000 bonus. I mean, like salary after bonus is going to be after getting 5,000 bonus is going to be 55,000. You can clearly see here two parents and one single child. Child is inheriting employee details and bonus values, and also it's creating. And we're gonna create an object in the name of a child. Okay, interesting, right? Okay. So next interesting thing is like multi-level. Multi-level in the sense a class inherits from a child class which itself inherits from another parent class. It forms a chain of inheritance like a family tree across generations like grandfather, father and a child. Different levels you will get it. So we call it like multi-level. So I have a question here. Write a program using multi-level inheritance where employee class will store a base salary, full-time employee adds a bonus, and manager has to add an extra allowance. So here base salary is going to be 20,000. Finally, you have to calculate a final salary. So how do you start this question? So it's multi-level, so we have to write it in different levels. You need a grandparent, which is going to be an employee, and then it's going to be a parent, wherein we will be adding a bonus, let's say 5,000 bonus, and then you have to create one more child class. So wherein we have to update a salary, um, like giving kind of incentive something, right? Like kind of extra allowance we are giving. Okay, all right. So we'll try to build it in different levels, like a grandparent and parent. Okay, first I'm going to define a parent class that is a grandparent class in the name of employee. So class employee, and then I'll just define double underscore input, double underscore self, and I'll just call it like a salary. So I'll just call it like a self dot salary is equal to salary. Okay, done. Next, I want to see the actual salary. So I would call get salary call self and then ask to return. You can just use a format, the initial salary. Okay, you can call it like initial salary is going to be kind of self dot salary. Okay, done. Next important thing. So I'm defining the further class. Further class is related to a bonus that was for full-time employee, right? Okay. So if it's a full-time employee, we just add a bonus. I'll just define bonus and we'll call ourselves and I'll just return. I'm just calling actual salary and I'm just giving a bonus of 5,000. Okay, great. Then I'm defining child class wherein a manager. So what manager will do? So full time has to access an actual employee details because we need a salary, right? Okay, and then manager is going to access all the properties related to full time employee. Great. Then I'm going to define extra allowance, right? Like final or salary calculation. So I will call it like a final colon. So what I'll do, I'll just try to call Brendan. Um, let's use a format. I would say final salary is equal to, okay. So I'll just call self dot a bonus, whatever a bonus applied, like whatever value you get after applying a bonus, plus extra 10,000 allowance is given by the manager. Okay, so total salary is going to be actual salary plus 5,000 plus 10,000. Now I need to create an object. I'm going to create an object in the name of manager and clearly. So multi-level inheritance, it is expecting only a salary, let's say initial salary is 20,000. Okay, great. So now what I'll do, I'm just trying to call object dot final has to give me the final salary is going to be 20,000 plus 10,000 extra allowance, 30,000 plus 5,000 bonus, which is 35,000. So this is how multi-level inheritance will work. This is like grandparent, different levels you can see. And this is like father, and this is like child. Okay. So first father is inheriting all the properties of our grandparent, then child is inheriting all the properties of both father and a grandparent. So this is multi-level. The final one is, hierarchical inheritance. So hierarchical inheritance occurs when multiple child classes inherit from a same parent class. Single parent, multiple children. Okay, so here father has a common traits. Son and daughter both inherit those traits, but also have their own unique qualities. So I have a simple question to understand this. A single father and two children, like maybe a son and a daughter. Okay, it says employee should be the parent. Read the question carefully. Class should be employee. Stores a base salary, so I'll just define in a, okay, and I'm going to define it like self salary, right? Okay, so it's going to be self dot salary is equal to salary. Okay, done. And then there are three choice, multiple sides you can give it. So I'm going to define one more. One is manager. So manager is inheriting all the property of an employee. So base salary is taken from them. Okay, and then I'm defining a method. Manager is going to give a allowance, right? So I'll just call it like allowance and I'll call it like a self. And I'll ask it to return self dot salary plus 10,000. Okay, done. So then finally, I'm going to call class. I'm going to call a developer. So developer is a child too. Even he is going to inherit all the properties of an employee. The salary is the same salary. Okay, if you are a developer, you get a 5,000 project bonus. Okay, so written. So along with extra allowance, along with extra, oh sorry, I forgot to define our method. Yeah, define, it's like extra bonus, right? Yeah. So bonus self, okay. So it's going to return self dot, not really salary, we'll just call it like self dot allowance. Like after you get that allowance from a manager, you're gonna add, if you are a developer, you're gonna get 5,000 extra bonus, right? So it's going to be plus 5,000. Great. And then I'm creating one more child, which is intern. If you are an intern, okay, if in case you are an intern and I'm trying to call this, okay, and then we'll define a method. So you're gonna get some hike. I would call it like hike of self. Okay, written. I'm going to call actual salary, not really actual salary. I'll just call allowance is common for everyone, whether you're a developer or an intern. So I'm just calling self dot allowance, and you're gonna get how much hike? 50% of a salary as a stipend. 50% hike you will save, right? So I would call allowance plus self dot salary times 50%. So I'm just adding 50% of your actual salary. So now I need to create how many objects? So you're not supposed to create one object, you're supposed to create two objects. So one for developer, one for intern. Actually, you have to create a three objects, right? Three objects. So one for manager. So manager is equal to, you're gonna call manager and you need to pass a salary. So let's say 30,000. And then you need to call developer. Developer is equal to, you're gonna create in the name of developer. Again, developer salary is also 30,000. And then I'm calling intern. So intern is going to be, again, I'll just see 30,000 itself. Okay. Now let's see. I'll just call a manager. So I would call Manager dot allowance. So basically, manager was giving an allowance of 10,000, right? So I mean, it's somewhere wrong. Its salary spelling is wrong. Sorry. Yes. So initial salary was 30,000. Manager allowance is giving 10,000. So it has become 40,000. And then I'll be calling developer dot. Let's call it bonus of a developer. I just want to see how much bonus a developer got. So developer dot bonus. It's giving. Okay, so basically self-taught allowance, it's not understanding it because it's not inheriting, right? So we'll do one thing. Allowance is given only for a manager post, let's say. This we'll just call it like a salary itself, normal salary itself. Even here also, I'll just try to call a salary only. Okay, we'll compare it with actual salaries itself. See, bonus is 35,000, 30,000 was salary, 5,000 got added. Then intern got hike. Intern was going to get a hike, like how much? So again, even here we multiplied. Okay. So I gave parenthesis for a self-taught salary, which is not important. Yes. Mistake. Simple mistake. Okay. Got a 50% hike. Actual salary was 30,000. 50% of 30,000 is 15,000. So 30,000 plus 15,000 has been, 45,000. So this is all related to inheritance, different types of inheritance. It's like kind of inheriting everything from parents so that you can prevent writing code multiple times. I hope it's clear. Thank you. Happy learning.